T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Coach on Fire Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of your Journey to Success podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Weiss. I'm a life coach, speaker, author, based here in Phoenix. And my goal here each week is really to create a movement of people who are passionate about getting real information to move out of something I call the worst day cycle. All of us have suffered some sort of bad event in our life, and it's affecting everything we do. And unfortunately, there's a lack of concrete information out there, or what I call superficial buzzwords. And for most of us, it's just unseen. It's unknown that the impact that is having in every area of our life. So I describe that process, and I give you a roadmap to overcome it in my new book, Your Journey to Success, which is available in all formats. And I think it's still, if you're looking for it, the Kindle version is 99 cents right now, so take advantage of that. But I originally had a guest scheduled today, but she had an emergency pop up. And so today I just put on Facebook, what do you guys want to talk about? And there were several things: fear of success, how to believe in yourself. But the overwhelming request was relationships. And someone got a little bit more specific. How does denial show up in relationships? So I thought I would tackle that topic first. And the first thing we have to, you want to talk about denial. Obviously, the current relationship dynamic doesn't work. Over 50% of the population is divorced. So I don't know about you, but I never passed a class if I got 50%. So that tells me what we've been learning, and what we all think is love or a healthy relationship obviously is wrong. We have proof of it, and the revolving door on relationships. And there's several reasons for that I'm going to get into. One of them is the best way to explain this, and I use this example in speeches all the time, is, would you let me cut your hair? If you're a woman out there, would you let me cut your hair? The usual response is, well, do you have any experience? And I'm like, I'm 52 years old. I've been watching people cut my hair for 40 some years. I have a pretty good idea. And they're like, but you haven't taken a class or have a license? And I'm like, no, but what if I told you that both of my parents were hairdressers, that my aunts and uncles were, that my brothers and sisters were, and that I spent my life sitting in a barbershop watching them? Wouldn't that be enough experience to let you cut my hair? Every woman, even men, are like, no, I'm not going to let you near your hair or near my hair. And my response is always, I find that absolutely fascinating. Your hair, something that no matter how badly I butcher it, will grow back perfectly on its own. You want me to have a license. Even the government requires that I have a license. But to be a parent, to have a relationship, or learn about emotions, we don't take a single class. We know nothing about it. And the second I mention that, people get defensive and go, well, I've been watching, I know. Yeah, I know. We've all grown up on that barbershop bench watching people who weren't taught either, who basically our parents in their relationship or as parents basically grabbed hair and kind of went, well, I think you cut a little here and you cut a little there. And so that's the primary reason. We aren't bad. We aren't incapable. There's nothing wrong with us. We just don't have the information. So look at how we've all learned about relationships through movies, through TV shows, through books, music especially. That's how we all learn about relationships. And unfortunately, that model doesn't work. The model we have all seen as far as love in a relationship is something called codependency and love addiction. That's what we all pursue, is codependency and love addiction. Most people, this is where the unseen influences come in. Most people are, again, because we don't know things, we haven't been taught how this works. Most people don't realize that the love feeling they're looking for, like you see it all over on profiles, is I want that butterfly feeling in the stomach. Well, that feeling is actually the exact same chemical reaction as snorting a line of cocaine. What we all seek is addiction, what's called intensity. It's not love. Love itself is incredibly quiet. But again, we just lack information. So with the guest canceling real quick, I quickly jotted down some basic parameters. This topic is so big and the intricacies of it are so big, I could probably do a week-long seminar to walk everybody through so they have the information. But I'm going to try and glance on things. Now, if you have questions or unsure about stuff, let me know. I see some people. Hey, Paul, good morning. Normally I have guests and I type replies. I won't be able to because, I'm doing this by myself here. So the first thing you have to realize is where the concept of love came from. It came from the 12th century. Originally, marriage and companionship was just arranged or it was, used to procreate. But in the 12th century, that changed. And what changed was aristocratic men used to send love letters to married women, pining about how much they want them. And so that in itself, think of that, married men sending letters to married or unavailable women. That's where the concept of love came from. So its basis started from codependency and love addiction. And it's grown since that into what we have today. So the first thing I want to do is I want to describe what love addiction is because most people don't know what it is. Now, first of all, you say the word addiction, everybody freaks out. I'm not an addict. I don't want to be an addict. Don't call me an addict. Well, if you like coffee in the morning, if you put a barrette in your hair, if you wear a t-shirt every day, if you like tennis shoes instead of loafers, whatever choice it is you make throughout your day is an emotional addiction. That's every choice we ever make is a chemical reaction in our body that we get addicted to. And those are our habits, the things we pursue. So don't get hung up on the word addiction. Think of it like, call it love milk, love cheese. I don't care what you call it. It doesn't matter. But there's such a stigma to the word addiction. So I don't want you to carry that stigma. That's not what this is about. It's just about naming something so we know what it is. So here's what the primary dynamic is in every single relationship out there. Your parents, my parents, our grandparents, ad nauseum. This is what we've all learned. First of all of us can bounce between roles, what's called a love addict or a love avoidant. All right. Usually people are primarily one or the other, but someone like myself, I'm insane in a relationship. I bounce between two. So, being in a relationship with me can be incredibly chaotic because of this. So, but that's just because of what I was taught. I'm much better than I was, but it's a process. It's not perfection. Okay. So here's how it works. The love addict, their primary conscious fear is abandonment. Okay. Most likely in their childhood, they suffered some sort of abandonment. I can't get into all the details of that, but their greatest fear is to be abandoned. Their subconscious fear is intimacy, being known or getting close to somebody. Now, the love avoidant, it's the polar opposite. Their primary fear is intimacy, being known or close to somebody, but their secondary fear is abandonment. So you see how they're polar opposites. Now, here's what draws people together. Like I could take everyone listening right now, I could put you in a room of 10,000 people and I know exactly which one you'd pick. If you're a love addict, I could fill the room with love addicts and one love avoidant and like radar. You'd walk right up to them and go, this is the one. and vice versa. It's how we all pick our partners. Think of the millions of people who flirt with you, ask for your phone number, ask you out, and you only say yes to a certain type, right? Other ones are like, oh, that's boring. That's a key word. Most people go, no, they bore me to death. That's part of the love addiction. Remember, it's about intensity. And so that's why we pick this person. So let me get into the dynamics. First of all, the love addict, what they do when they meet somebody, usually they pick a love avoidant, is they instantly ascribe power to him. Now, like for a woman, they'll see a male love avoidant and the love avoidant has power. That's the primary dynamic. Maybe it's wealth, like men, their careers or the money they make. Love addict women love that. Or men, women will use sex. They're highly sexual or suggestive, the way they dress, the way they act. There's this power to their sensuality and sexuality, and the love addict loves that. So what they're looking for is basically a superhero, all right? Somebody who's going to take away the pain and loss from the abandonment. So they see in this love avoidant, they're highly intelligent. They have lots of activities. Maybe they're highly accomplished. They're wealthy, highly sexual. They have these great, powerful qualities, all right? And because of the abandonment they suffered, they're like, oh my God, this is the person, all right? Now, the love avoidant, conversely, they thrive on that power position and the adoration of the love addict, how powerful they see themselves. And the love addict, one of the characteristics is as soon as they meet this love avoidant, you see this all the time, they give up everything. They stop hanging out with their friends. They stop pursuing their hobbies, stop seeing their family, stop going to class. They find ways to get out of work. They drop out of their life and ascribe all their happiness to the love avoidant, okay? Now, for a period of time, the love avoidant loves that. It's wonderful. That sense of power is everything to them. But because as a child, usually a love avoidant was smothered. They were either the golden child or they had a codependent mother or father who attached to them too heavily. You see this all the time on Facebook now. Mothers and fathers with massive adoration. I see like parents will say that my child is my life. That's incredibly damaging to the child because the child has way too much power in that dynamic. That's smothering to them. It's suffocating. It scares the living hell out of them because a child's going, wait a minute. I'm not supposed to be that important to you. You're supposed to have an adult to have that relationship with. But so if I have that much power over you, I'm not safe because you're ascribing all the power to me. I can't have that. And so someone who's a love avoidant grew up that way. Like my mother was an alcoholic, okay? And because of my dad was incredibly angry, so my mom would turn to me and tell me about the intricacies of their marriage and the struggles. I became the emotional support for my mother. That's incredibly smothering and damaging. So when adults turn to their kids and give them too much information or become too much of a friend to them, that's what creates a love avoidant. They're suffocated, okay, because they can't experience their own life. Because as a child, my life depends on you. So if you're unhappy, mom or dad, I've got to make sure you're okay, so I'm okay. So what happens in this dynamic is, again, in the beginning, that love addict sounds wonderful because they remind them of the massive attention they got from mom and dad. It feels great to have all that power, but it becomes suffocating. And so what the love avoidant does is they eventually turn. Now, the key to a love avoidant is they always have what's called outside intensity, something that's more important than the love addict. And it's legitimate excuses, like men. Their primary way they seek outside intensity is their work, their hobbies, sports. They will tend to have sexual affairs outside of the relationship. But you can, or even their kids, they'll ascribe too much attention to their kids. And as a love addict, how can you argue with that? Look, honey, I'm working